What if living longer wasn't about trying to cheat death, but about getting really good at your body's built-in repair jobs? Hey everyone, I'm your host, and I've spent ages digging into what's new and exciting in human performance and how to live a long, healthy life. We're not just aiming to rack up more years. It's about living better, sharper, and healthier for way longer. And what you don't always see in the headlines are these amazing, interconnected systems that really make it all happen. Over the next 28 minutes or so, we're gonna break down the exact longevity plan used by one of the smartest folks in this game, Dr. Rhonda Patrick. You'll hear about her smart take on fasting, how creatine does way more than just help at the gym, and some really cool tricks for keeping your brain in top shape. Dr. Rhonda Patrick. You've probably seen her around, maybe on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, episode 740. She's got a Ph.D. in biomedical sciences, and her research is all about how what we eat and our environment mess with our health, aging, and how long we live. She's not just watching what's happening. She's a scientist actually figuring out how we can all be healthier for longer. But here's the thing, Dr. Patrick isn't pushing some single magic pill. Her whole deal is about building this really smart longevity architecture, a bunch of different things working together. It sounds complicated, it's definitely science-based, but man, does it work. Today, we're slicing up three main parts of her strategy. First up, a specific kind of fasting that kicks off serious cellular repair. Second, creatine. Forget just for lifting weights. It's a key nutrient for brain power and function, especially as we get older. And third, smart ways to keep your brain sharp, which is super tied to living a longer, more awesome life. This stuff is huge. We're not just talking about adding more years to your life, but actually adding life to those years. Picture this, staying mentally sharp, full of physical energy, and bouncing back from things as you age. That's what understanding and actually doing these things can offer. Lots of folks think creatine is only for bodybuilders, for getting big muscles and being a sports star. It's a super common idea that really limits how people see its value. But Dr. Patrick, looking at tons of research, points out it has a much bigger, and honestly, probably more important job. Creatine is a big deal for how our bodies make and use energy, not just in our muscles, but really importantly, in our brains. Think of it as an easy-access energy stash for your brain cells. When you're doing tough thinking, or when you're stressed out, like not getting enough sleep, creatine helps make sure your brain cells have the juice they need to work right. This is especially true as we get older. Losing brain power is a big worry for a lot of people, and keeping your brain working well is key to enjoying life. Dr. Patrick talks about how creatine might protect your brain, helping to fight off age-related changes and keep your thinking sharp. This isn't just theory. Studies have looked into how it affects your mood, and even if it can help with certain brain issues. Source: NCBI PMC 7916590. The science is pretty convincing. Creatine isn't just a supplement for building muscle. It's a fundamental piece of how your brain gets and uses energy. It helps your thinking skills, helps you handle times when your brain needs more power, and might even offer some protection as the years roll on. Source: Found My Fitness. Knowing this changes creatine from just a gym buddy to something that helps your overall health. Okay, now let's switch gears to another big piece of Dr. Patrick's longevity plan, fasting. But not just any fasting. We're talking about intermittent fasting, a practice that, when you do it the right way, can kickstart some serious internal cleanup jobs in our cells. When you fast, your body kinda shifts gears. Instead of working on digesting food, it starts focusing on important upkeep. A major player here is something called autophagy. Basically, it's your cell's own recycling system. Old, damaged proteins and cell parts get cleared out, making room for new, healthy ones. This whole process of fixing up and rebuilding cells is super important for fighting aging and staying healthy. By giving our digestive system a break, We let our body put energy into these critical internal cleanup missions. Dr. Patrick goes deep into how this works, explaining how fasting can activate pathways that make cells tougher and help us live longer. Source: Found My Fitness. The potential benefits are huge. Intermittent fasting has been linked to better metabolism, improved insulin sensitivity, and possibly a lower chance of getting various long-term illnesses. It's a way to use our body's natural rhythms to boost health and keep us feeling good for more years. Scientific reviews keep coming out, digging into the nitty-gritty of why intermittent fasting works, showing its potential for helping with health and managing diseases. Source: NCBI PMC 6475412. This isn't just hearsay. There's a growing pile of evidence backing up the power of smart fasting. The key takeaway is understanding how fasting works at the cell level. It's not about starving yourself. It's about giving your body controlled periods of stress that make it adapt and become healthier and stronger overall. This fits right in with the bigger picture stuff she talked about on PBD 740, where optimizing health was a main topic. Source: YouTube PBD 740. Lastly, we get to the third pillar, actively working on brain health. While fasting and creatine lay a solid groundwork, consciously doing things to boost your brain power is absolutely essential for staying vibrant long-term. Dr. Patrick stresses that a healthy brain isn't just something that happens as you get older, it's something you can actively build. This means understanding how your brain works at a biological level and using specific tactics. It's about building up what's called cognitive reserve, your brain's ability to figure out new ways to do things when it faces challenges. These strategies are really tied into the other parts. Having good energy use, thanks to creatine, is vital for brain cells to do their job. Cell repair, boosted by fasting, also helps create a healthy environment in your brain, protecting it from damage and inflammation. The connection is pretty clear. A healthy body helps a healthy brain, and a healthy brain lets us manage our health and lives better as we get older. It's a team effort, where each part makes the others work even better. This big picture view is why Dr. Patrick's approach is so strong and something you can stick with. The research, like what you see in sources such as NCBI PMC 7916590, backs up the many ways nutrients and lifestyle choices can help keep thinking sharp and mood stable, directly informing these brain health tactics. We're not just talking about stopping problems. We're talking about making your brain work better, boosting focus, memory, and how you solve problems. This isn't some far-off dream. It's using what science knows to make everyday life better. So, we've got these three powerful pieces: fasting for cell repair, creatine for brain energy, and specific brain health strategies. But the real magic happens when you don't see them as separate things, but as parts of a bigger, connected longevity system. Think of it like building a house. You wouldn't just focus on the roof, or only the foundation, or just the walls. You need a smart plan where everything works together to make a solid, lasting structure. Dr. Patrick's strategy for longevity is exactly that: a master plan for building health that lasts. Her work, shared widely through places like Found My Fitness, consistently bridges the gap between super complex science and practical health tips. She takes complicated biological stuff and turns it into useful strategies that pretty much anyone can get and maybe put into practice. The goal isn't just to hit 100 years old, but to live those years with energy, mental clarity, and independence. It's about keeping the quality of life that makes those extra years truly count. And the strategies we're looking at today are central to making that happen. The way these pillars work together is the real secret sauce. Fasting gets your body ready for repair, creating a great internal setup. Creatine provides the essential fuel for your brain to do its thinking stuff, making sure it's working at its best. And actively working on brain health ensures we keep our minds sharp, building up defenses against cognitive issues. It's a system built not just to add more years to your life, but to maximize your health span, the time you spend actually feeling good and healthy. That's the ultimate aim of longevity science, and Dr. Patrick is leading the charge in making that goal a reality. As we go on, we'll break down each of these parts even further. We'll look at exactly how they work, what the science says, and how Dr. Patrick herself uses them every day. But for now, get this. Living a long life isn't about one simple trick. It's about a smart, connected strategy. And by understanding these three main parts, the strategic power of fasting, the brain-boosting potential of creatine, and how crucial it is to actively care for your brain, you'll get a powerful roadmap for making your own health span the best it can be. This is what longevity architecture looks like, and it's more within reach than you might think. Let's get into it. So, Rhonda Patrick. You hear that name, and it's pretty much a guarantee you're about to get into some serious, cutting-edge health and longevity research. She's not one to just follow the latest health craze. She's all about digging into the actual science. Today, we're going to get deep into two of her absolute go-to strategies for living a longer, healthier life: the smart way to fast and the power of creatine, which, honestly, most people underestimate. These aren't just fleeting fads, mind you. They're backed by how our cells work and a ton of new research, discussions we've definitely heard a lot about on places like the Peter Attia Drive podcast. For Dr. Patrick, fasting is way more than just skipping a meal. It's a really intentional practice, a signal to your cells that, hey, food's not around right now, which kicks off a whole chain reaction of really beneficial adaptive responses. She talks a lot about different ways to do it because, let's be real, what works for one person isn't always the best for another. This can mean anything from intermittent fasting, where you structure your eating and fasting times throughout the day or week, to longer fasts that you do occasionally, but always with specific health goals in mind. The whole point here isn't about feeling deprived. It's about making things work better. Intermittent fasting, for example, often looks like having an eating window each day, maybe fasting for 16 hours and then eating within an 8-hour period. This kind of schedule can seriously help manage your blood sugar levels and make your body more sensitive to insulin. When we're constantly eating, our bodies are always busy processing nutrients. But giving our bodies periods without food lets them switch gears, moving from just absorbing nutrients to actually doing some much-needed cellular maintenance and repair. One of the coolest things that happens when you fast is this process called autophagy. You can think of it like your cell's own little internal cleaning crew. When nutrients are low, your cells kick off this process to get rid of damaged bits, proteins that aren't folded right, and organelles that aren't working properly anymore. This cellular cleanup is super important for stopping toxic gunk from building up, which is linked to aging and brain diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Dr. Patrick constantly points out that autophagy is a huge part of why fasting is so good for longevity. Source: Found My Fitness, Rhonda Patrick Fasting Health Longevity. It's literally how our cells rejuvenate themselves from the inside out. And it's not just about autophagy. Fasting also has a major impact on inflammation. That low-grade, chronic inflammation. It's a real hidden danger, contributing to tons of age-related diseases, from heart problems to arthritis. By dialing down those inflammatory markers in your body, fasting basically acts like an anti-inflammatory, helping to create a healthier internal environment. Plus, getting better at handling insulin is a big deal with fasting. This means your body gets way more efficient at using glucose for energy, which cuts down the risk of type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome, conditions that really shorten your life and make it harder to live well. These aren't just theoretical ideas. These are actual biological responses we see when people go without food for controlled periods. Source: NCBI intermittent fasting mechanisms. All these talks about how fasting helps our cells, including fixing them up and preventing diseases, have been a huge part of what Dr. Patrick discusses, especially in episodes like PBD 740. She really hammers home that fasting isn't about starving yourself, but about smartly using your body's natural ability to adapt. The goal is to build up your body's resilience, boost cellular health, and ultimately extend the years you spend feeling good and healthy, your health span. Okay, now let's switch gears to another, equally crucial tool in Dr. Patrick's longevity arsenal, creatine. Most people think of it as just for athletes trying to build muscle, but its benefits go way beyond the gym. Rhonda Patrick is a big fan of creatine because it has a massive impact on brain health and how well our brains function, especially as we get older or when we're dealing with physical stress. Creatine is this compound that naturally exists in our muscle cells. Its main job is to help regenerate adenosine triphosphate, ATP, which is basically the energy currency for all our cells. Our bodies do make some creatine on their own, and we get a little bit from food, mainly red meat and fish, but taking creatine supplements can really boost your levels. This is especially important for the brain, which, by the way, is an absolute energy hog. Dr. Patrick explains that the brain really depends on ATP to work its best. When you're thinking really hard, not getting enough sleep, or even just as part of the natural aging process, the brain's energy supply can get stretched thin. Supplementing with creatine helps cushion that energy demand by giving the brain a readily available source of ATP. What this means in real terms is better cognitive performance, including sharper memory, improved focus, and faster processing source. Found MyFitness, Rhonda Patrick Creatine Brain Health. And the science totally backs this up. You can find studies in journals like PubMed Central that really highlight how creatine is involved in brain energy use and how it might protect our brain cells. This is super important as we get older, when cognitive decline is a pretty big worry. Creatine seems to help the brain handle metabolic stress better, keeping brain cells healthy. Source: NCBI Creatine Brain Health. Just picture it as giving your brain a reliable energy backup, making sure it can keep performing at its peak, even when things get tough. On top of that, research suggests creatine might help regulate mood and could even play a role in easing certain neurological conditions. Now, Dr. Patrick and the science community are always careful not to overpromise, but the evidence really does point to creatine being a supplement with multiple benefits that can significantly impact brain health throughout our lives. This totally fits with her evidence-based approach to longevity, focusing on fundamental biological processes. Now, when you start thinking about how fasting and creatine might work together, that's where things get really exciting. Fasting, as we've gone over, gets your cells cleaning themselves up and makes your metabolism work better. Creatine, on the other hand, directly supports your cells' energy, particularly in the brain. So, by making sure your cells are efficiently getting rid of damage through autophagy and ensuring your brain has the energy it needs to function optimally, these two strategies combine to give you a powerful 1-2 punch for both living longer and keeping your mind sharp. Think about the aging brain for a second. It's dealing with a double whammy. Cells naturally become less efficient and produce less energy as we age, and they also become more vulnerable to damage and inflammation. Fasting helps tackle that damage and inflammation by promoting autophagy and reducing inflammation throughout the body. Creatine directly fights that energy shortfall, making sure your neurons have the fuel they need. Put them together, and you've got a really comprehensive way to keep your brain healthy as you get older. This kind of integrated strategy is exactly what Dr. Patrick is all about. It's not about finding some single magical solution, but about understanding how different interventions can work together at both the cellular and whole body level. The conversations on PBD 740 often link these ideas together, showing how practices that might seem totally separate, like fasting and taking supplements, can actually be combined to create significant health benefits. The whole point is to build resilience, not just to live longer, but to live better, with a sharp mind and a healthy body for all your years. The science behind both fasting and creatine is solid, and it's still growing. They really represent pillars of an evidence-based approach to optimizing your health and longevity. When you understand the science behind the scenes, things like autophagy, how your body uses insulin and cellular energy production, you can really grasp why these strategies are so powerful. They tap into our body's own incredible ability to repair, adapt, and thrive. Rhonda Patrick's whole approach is built on this deep dive into how our biology actually works. She doesn't just tell you what to do, she explains why it works, which really empowers you with knowledge. Fasting and creatine are perfect examples of this philosophy in practice. They're accessible, backed by science, and can make a huge difference in how long and how well you live. For anyone who's serious about optimizing their longevity, these are absolutely foundational elements. All right, let's take this section and give it a more natural, human feel, shall we? We'll keep everything the same. Every word, every marker, every citation, just make it sound less robotic. So, we've checked out how Dr. Rhonda Patrick uses fasting to get our cells all spiffy and renewed, and creatine for that cellular energy boost. But building a long, healthy life isn't quite done without a brain that's really strong and can bounce back. That brings us to our third super important piece, strategies specifically for brain health. And this isn't just about cramming facts for a test. It's really about encouraging neurogenesis. That's basically when new brain cells are born and making neuroplasticity better. Think of neuroplasticity as your brain's superpower to change and sort of rewire itself, no matter how old you get. Plus, it's also about keeping those important brain cells safe from getting damaged or wearing out. Dr. Patrick really stresses certain nutrients that are known to make a huge difference in how our brains work. Omega-3 fatty acids, the good fats you get from fish like salmon, are like the essential building materials for brain cell membranes. They also help cut down on inflammation, which we know can totally mess with our thinking skills. She also points to stuff like sulforaphane, which is packed into veggies like broccoli. Studies actually suggest that sulforaphane can kickstart something called the NRF2 pathway. It's this really powerful built-in defense system that acts like an antioxidant, protecting your brain cells. Source: Found My Fitness podcast transcript. Beyond just what you eat, your brain absolutely loves a good challenge and trying new things. Patrick's a big fan of brain exercises, really pushing our mental limits by learning something new, tackling puzzles, or diving into some tricky problem solving. This kind of mental workout is like hitting the gym for your brain. It strengthens those neural connections and really boosts that plasticity we talked about. Now, this is super key. She also makes sure to include managing stress and getting good sleep as part of her brain health plan. When you're stressed out all the time, your brain gets flooded with cortisol, and that can seriously mess with your thinking abilities and can even hurt your brain cells over time. Things like mindfulness or meditation can actually help dial that back. And sleep, it's not just downtime, it's prime time for your brain to lock in those memories, clear out all the junk it doesn't need, and get itself repaired. Source: Found My Fitness podcast transcript. Okay, so let's put the whole picture together. The real magic of Dr. Patrick's approach isn't just doing these things one by one, it's how beautifully they all work together. Think about how these pieces connect. Fasting, by triggering something called autophagy, essentially cleans out damaged cell parts all over your body, and yes, that includes your brain. This cellular tidying up process really sets your brain up to function at its best. Source: NCBI article PMC 6475412. At the same time, creatine is giving your neurons the essential energy they need, especially when you're doing tough thinking or when you're not getting enough sleep. Source: NCBI article PMC 7916590. This extracellular energy, thanks to creatine, actually supports the very things Patrick talks about: neurogenesis and neuroplasticity, which she boosts with specific nutrients and by challenging your brain. The omega-3s and sulforaphane provide the structure and the protection, while those mental workouts are busy building new pathways and making the old ones stronger. Picture this. You're doing intermittent fasting, which helps your cells repair and clears out waste from your brain. You're taking creatine, making sure your brain cells have all the power they need to perform at their peak, particularly when you're mentally drained or haven't slept well. You're eating foods packed with omega-3s and sulforaphane, giving your brain those crucial building blocks and solid antioxidant defenses. And you're actively giving your brain a workout by learning new stuff and solving problems. These aren't separate things you're doing. They're like threads woven together to create this incredibly resilient brain. Fasting can actually make your mitochondria work better, and creatine directly helps power up those mitochondria. Source: Found My Fitness podcast transcript. And when your cells are healthier thanks to fasting and creatine, your brain becomes even more receptive to the benefits of those special nutrients and all that mental stimulation. And here's the big reveal. Dr. Rhonda Patrick's plan for a long, healthy life isn't just one single trick. It's a complete system. It's about activating these fundamental biological processes, like autophagy for cleaning and creatine for energy, and then building on that with specific brain-boosting strategies, all while fighting off the constant threat of stress and making sure you get good, restorative sleep. So, what's the outcome? You get a brain that's not only shielded from the wear and tear of aging and diseases, but is actively getting better. A brain that can keep thinking sharply, feel emotionally balanced, and adapt to whatever life throws at it. This isn't just about avoiding sickness. It's about making your brain perform at its absolute best and living with tons of energy for your whole life. By really getting and using these three main pillars: cell renewal through fasting, cell energy through creatine, and those targeted brain health tactics, you start to uncover the secret plan for a life that's lived with way more energy, sharper thinking, and incredible resilience. This is the whole blueprint for longevity, just like Dr. Rhonda Patrick puts into practice and talks about. It's a really powerful, science-backed approach that gives us the tools to take charge of our own health, not just to live longer, but to actually add more life to those years. You know, Rhonda Patrick doesn't just push one single, magic pill for living longer. Nah, it's more like a whole orchestra of things working together. It really shows that a truly healthy, long life is built on solid science, all meshed together. She's great at reminding us that getting older isn't just some slow, unavoidable breakdown. It's actually a really active process, and guess what? We can totally influence it. When she talks about the brain fixing cells and being flexible with our metabolism, it hits home. We actually have way more control over how we age than most folks think. Just think about that for a second. This isn't about going on some crazy diet or doing insane workouts that only super athletes can handle. Patrick's ideas, like messing around with intermittent fasting or smartly using supplements such as creatine, give anyone real, practical ways to try things out. So, the science behind fasting, for example, it points to these awesome cellular repair jobs like autophagy. Basically, your body goes in there, kicks out the damaged cell bits, and reuses what it can. It's like hitting a reset button for your cells. Seriously, source: NCBI, NLM, NI. gov/pmc/articles/pmc 6,475,412/ and creatine, which most people just think is for bulking up. Turns out, it's super important for how your brain uses energy. It can make your thinking sharper, lift your mood, and even protect your brain, especially when you're super stressed, not sleeping enough, or just as the years start adding up. Source: NCBI, NLM, NI. gov/pmc/articles/pmc 7,916,590/. These aren't just fancy ideas floating around. They're actual things you can do, and they're backed by real research. Patrick's whole deal is empowering us by breaking down this complicated biology stuff and making it into simple, doable steps. And the best part, they're totally accessible. You don't gotta flip your entire life upside down overnight. You can ease into this stuff. Maybe start with fasting for a shorter time, a few days a week, or think about taking creatine to give your brain some extra support. Small changes, done consistently, can actually lead to some pretty massive long-term good stuff. This whole way of thinking changes the game. Instead of just trying to fight aging, it's about actively making our healthy years as long as possible. It's not just about living longer, but honestly, living better. The trick here is to see how everything fits together. When you get how sleep, what you eat, moving your body, and specific supplements like creatine can all work as a team, that's where the real magic happens. Source: foundmefitness.com/episode/Rhonda Patrick. Creating brain health. Rhonda Patrick's wisdom really gives us a roadmap for taking charge of our health in a smarter, more informed way. It's basically an open invitation to jump in and be an active player in your own well-being story. So, what's the next move for you? Why not start looking into how intermittent fasting, creatine, or even some brain-boosting tricks could fit into your daily grind? Which of these secrets are you gonna start figuring out today? Hit us up in the comments below and tell us.